This is the seventh dialogue between J. Krishnamurti and David Bohm in Gstaad, 1975.
Or do we start on?
Well, maybe some suggestion.
Where did we leave off?
Well, we discussed, during the last time we began by discussing the question of how thought responds to the action of truth. And then you broke off toward the end for a short period, and then you came back and you raised the question of mystery.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And I told you yesterday that I saw a quotation from Einstein saying that of all the experiences we can have, the most beautiful of the experiences we can have is the mysterious, is the way he put it.
Right. All the religions, I mean, not the Orthodox priests or the Orthodox saints, they've all said there is something extraordinarily mysterious, something so vast that human mind can't grasp.
And I was saying last time that I think that, as this quotation from Einstein shows, that this is behind the deepest part of scientific research. See, I think, when I I just remembered when I was in Berkeley, California, they were setting up a huge magnet to study the atom, the nucleus, and I felt, they were probing something very mysterious. But of course, a friend of mine came along, who was also studying physics, and he said, any piece of iron as big as that must eventually turn into a battleship, which it did. It became part of the Manhattan Project for, the atomic bomb.
Atomic bomb, quite. I wonder if there is anything mysterious. I'm just exploring it. I don't say there is or there isn't. I wonder if there is anything really mysterious. Or we may first of all, as a thing desirable, it is very inviting.
Yeah, so I looked up the word mystery.
Yes.
It means basically hidden or secret. You see, the word mum and mutter, or mumble rather, is the same word as mysterious, to keep it secret or quiet.
Quiet, yes.
So some of the religions had esoteric mysteries at their center.
Yes. The Greeks had it, the Egyptians had it, and the Hindus, of course.
But then it says
Even
in the dictionary, in the dictionary it says that the Christian concept of mystery is something beyond human understanding. You see, it was not exactly the same. You see, the other one was something secret, but perhaps you could be initiated into the mystery.
Yes, initiated into the mystery.
Then you would understand it, you see.
Yes.
But the Christian said you could never understand it.
Understand it in the sense, experience it?
Well, to give it comprehend it rationally. Beyond rational comprehension, you see.
Beyond rational comprehension, yes. If one sets about to experience that, or to come into that, rather than experience, I prefer the word coming into it.
Yes, I think that they used to say to participate in it.
Participate in it. Let's use that. That's better word still. Participate in it. What is the nature of the mind or of the state that can participate into something that's totally mysterious?
Yeah, well. And what is the nature of the participation? I mean,
that's just it. You see, you were talking about the other day, having read that biography, I think we missed a point there.
What was the point?
The explanations which you gave, illness, reincarnation, this and that.
Yes.
I think that doesn't cover the ground totally.
Oh. I see.
Because I always felt there was something which was so vast that all their initiations, all their mysteries, all their had nothing to do with it. It can be either so romantically idiotic, or it is something it's there. I don't know if
Yes.
I don't know how to convey all this. So how does science answer this question, investigate this question?
Which question?
Mystery.
Well, I think that most scientists deny it. You see, that it begins with some interest in something mysterious, with the hope of probing into the mystery, but I think gradually it slides over into another attitude in which people explain something and they begin gradually to replace the mystery by the structure that they have explained. You see, and saying that, implying at least that is all there is. That sort of thing, anyway, is all there is. See, they always say there's a great deal that's unknown. All the scientists are always saying, yes, it's a tremendous amount that's unknown, but it is generally implied that the unknown
can be known.
It can be known, and it fits into that sort of framework.
Yes, quite.
But in the beginning, you can see that, say, somebody like Einstein, or in my own experience, or probably, I'm sure other people, in talking to other scientists, I can remember in the early days, it was implied without ever saying so that there was something mysterious, you see. I mean, in other words, that it was part of the energy which was behind the work.
Right.
Now,
if as a scientist you want to participate in it, how would you set about it?
Well, you see, the ordinary way of going about it is to try to, one way is, of course, to set up equipment which can probe the mystery, a telescope or a microscope or, I know, I'm just explaining.
Yes, quite.
Some very high, this tremendous magnet which would create particles of very great energy.
Yes.
The idea was that with very high energy particles, one could probe the mysterious structure beneath.
I understand that.
Now, of course, there's also the theoretical probe with the theoretical insight, imagination to
speculation,
and so on. But it seems that essentially that those are the instruments which science has used, you see. Now, I mean, it's not clear to me, how Einstein actually thought of it, because on the one hand, he was trying to look for a total explanation. See, there seems to me a contradiction here somewhere, because science seems to be committed to looking for an explanation, and at the same time, if it's explained, it's no mystery.
No, quite. What is explained is not a mystery.
And see, if Einstein says that the most beautiful experience is the mysterious, but if he succeeded in explaining the whole thing, the whole beauty would vanish. You see, that seems perhaps he didn't believe that it would ever be really explained. I don't know.
Suppose you have participated in that mystery and you want to tell me about it. Or you want to help me or guide me or push me towards it. What would you do? Would you say certain obvious things are necessary first?
What are the obvious things?
That's what I mean.
Well,
I don't like to use preparatory things, but like a very sensitive body. Not emotional, not sentimental, not neurotic, but sensitive. In the sense, have a quick insight, have a quick comprehension. Not tremendous lot of explanations. A quick grasp of something which is true. Would you say that would be necessary?
Well, that would be necessary, obviously, for that. I mean, it's necessary for almost anything, in fact.
I'm just...
Yes.
No, that means a physical nervous system and a psychological clarity. Would you?
Yes.
Now, how does one have psychological clarity? Because if we grant that these two are essential, a quick mind, a quick insight, a perception that is correct, and I haven't got it, suppose I haven't got it, then how is there a method, a system, a practice, a way of washing out, purging all that? Or there is no way at all? Or only the act of total listening to what you say. Say, for instance, when you say there is a mystery, to you it is the truth, the actual, the real, not real, it is. And if I haven't got the ears,
The what?
The ears to
Ears.
listen to you, I will never capture it. I never participate in it. And my longing is to participate in it. Because I see, intellectually, I see how extraordinarily important that is.
Yes, but the longing is of no use. Huh?
Longing is no use. I perceive it. I see with all my being, how extraordinarily important it is to have that, to participate in that mysterious thing, which will give a whole sense of enormous beauty for all that. I see it, but any effort I make will spoil it. Any desire, any action, any volition is still within the field of reality. So, how am I to participate in something which is so actual? What would you as a scientist say to it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, science has not really confronted that.
Why not? After all, so, I mean, they look into stars. That's not mysterious. I don't.
No, well, I hope it will be.
No, that's not mysterious.
It has been called a mysterious universe. But
yeah, I know. But you wouldn't call that mysterious, would you?
Well, no, once you've explained it, it's the same. It's still part of the same structure of reality.
Of reality, yes, that's right.
But would you say that there's a mystery as to? See, I was looking at it. We have truth and we have reality. You see, which don't mix. That is, although reality can become aware of the action of truth, right?
Yeah, reality can bring about order and peace and
but
everything.
it responds to the action of truth. So, you see,
it might, yes,
might.
Yeah, it might.
And now, you see, one of the things that occurred to me is there's something, it cannot be the last word, that these two are entirely separate, you see. In other words, that all existence is, that you could divide existence into two such distinct...
reality and truth.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I don't know why not, but just simply this division...
Is there a division?
Well, that's the question, you see, but the way we put it, it sounds as if there
is one. I know, but I like to question to find out whether the division exists at all.
Yes, but in the beginning you insisted on the fact they are separate, yes.
They are separate. But we are using the word separate as two separate things.
Yes, but...
Two separate states.
But what does the word separate mean as distinct?
Divided.
Yeah, we say that they're divided for the moment. I mean they're different. You say one is not related to the other.
We said that.
Yes.
Yes.
And
one is not related to the other.
Which implies division or separation. You see...
Let's for the moment accept that.
Yes.
Let's proceed.
At least on a certain level that appears to be the case.
Yes. Yes.
And once before in a discussion on intelligence, we raised the question of whether there was not some source, that is underlies both, you see.
Yes, quite.
And in that source there is no separation of truth and reality.
It's a common bed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the ground, whatever you want to call it.
Now, for the moment, we're not settling on that. We'll move from there for the time being.
Now, and one could say that possibly, this source is a mystery because, if you once begin to characterize it, it will either become, truth or reality.
Of course.
And now the other point that I was going along with was that, you see, I think that thought, reality, has a tendency to try. It knows it's fragmented and incomplete, but it has a tendency to try to become complete.
Complete, quite.
Which in some ways is good because it helps to organize reality more orderly way.
Understand.
But then, in the attempt of thought to cover the whole, it goes wrong. You see, that is thought.
Of course.
But thought is always trying to cover the whole. You see, it's always trying to say this is the whole, and in that way, of course, it closes and establishes a conclusion, a closure, and that, of course, becomes false. Now, so we were saying the other time also, the thought must acknowledge its own fragmentary
Limitation.
nature. Yes,
Yes.
its limited nature.
Yeah.
At the same time that it has the impulse to
expand.
That's quite good, as long as thought is not trying to capture the whole.
Quite. I understand all that.
But it occurred to me that thought in trying to capture the whole is the barrier to seeing this mystery. Insofar as it does capture anything, it's no longer mysterious.
Also, would you say, if thought is aware of its own limitation, and not expand, not try to include the whole, sees its limitation, and doesn't move beyond that limitation.
Yes, well, we're also saying the other time that the thought does not stay within its limitation ordinarily. That once it defines a limitation, then it tends to be beyond it already.
We are saying it is aware, attentive, all the rest. It is totally aware of its limitation.
So let's put it as thought. I was looking at this morning. Thought is aware that there is something beyond the unlimited. No, it isn't.
No, I would question. You see,
yeah, it's not aware of that. No, but thought knows it is limited. But it is already implied in that the word limited already.
I'm limited. This room is small.
Yes, that implies there's something outside the room.
I'm not even concerned if there is outside.
Yeah, well,
moment I'm concerned, thought is moving up.
Yes, well, I'm trying to say it's in the very structure of the word limit.
I understand that.
To imply something beyond.
All right. I am aware. Thought is aware that's fragmented, broken, limited. It cannot move beyond its own frontiers.
Yes, thought cannot capture the whole, and
yes, let's put it, yes, and stays there.
Yeah.
Tries to capture the whole. Says, I am not the whole.
Yes, and then there are very many subtle ways in which thought is trying to capture the whole, not merely by concepts, but also by various feelings.
We
have to watch them all.
I watched them all.
Yeah.
Feeling, thought, desire. Everything says, I won't move from there. Because I know the moment it moves, it is still the same thing.
Yes, I wonder why thought tries to capture the whole. Is that
because it is?
I mean, the mere fact of limitation is not enough to make it do so. That is,
no,
it has some belief.
Because it sees, it is aware of its own capacity as a fragmented thing.
Yes, but why does it want to get beyond that?
Because pain.
What?
Pain,
yeah,
suffering, wanting greater experience.
Yeah, but that all comes from the...
Exactly.
But I mean, that's no explanation. But, that's begging the question, because the suffering may be due to the desire to go beyond. As thought trying to capture the whole induces...
I don't understand your question.
Oh, as my own feeling is that the suffering comes when thought is trying to capture the whole.
I see what you're saying.
Because that being impossible, that will inevitably produce suffering.
And therefore it suffers.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't put it that way.
You won't put it?
No.
Why?
Because suffering is produced by thought.
Yes.
Not because it wants to capture something and therefore it cannot, therefore it suffers.
Yes. Well, that's one cause of suffering. If thought tries to achieve something which it cannot achieve.
But if I cannot achieve, if thought cannot achieve, why should it suffer? If I can't become the queen of England, that's the end of it. So I just mean, is it possible for me, from the thought that is in me, the thought that says I am totally limited. I am limited, fragmented, broken up. I can't. Any movement I make is still in the same area. Is that not possible?
Yes, well, you have to be very clear, you see.
I desire,
Yes.
will, the confined in the prison is ache and wanting to get out.
Yes.
All that I include.
And also, the thought perhaps has seen that wholeness is good, and it has gotten into the habit, of trying to achieve wholeness.
Wholeness.
In other words, thought has seen there is not wholeness, so thought has been looking for wholeness.
Yes, that too I include.
Yes.
Everything I include in that. Which, when we use the word limited, I include all that.
And they say that thought is in fact limited, and you could see why it is limited, because it is limited to reaction and reflection. At most it could reflect. Now, it cannot reflect the mystery, is that?
Yeah.
It can reflect only on reality.
That's right. It can only reflect in reality. That's right. Reflect what is going on in reality.
In reality.
Yes.
It can reflect and define and determine and so on, measure.
Yes.
Yes.
And thought realizes that. And therefore there is no movement outside that field.
Yes, well, but still there may be, because of a whole lifetime, a lot of unconscious movement, you see.
All right, let's go into that.
Yes.
My unconscious desire for the whole I watch it. That's why I said I'm very sensitive to everything that's going on in me.
Yes, well, I understand that. I mean,
Conscious as well as unconscious.
Yes, now being sensitive to the unconscious, let's discuss that a little.
Yes.
Because if it were totally unconscious, you couldn't be sensitive. But so we must be clear that it's relatively unconscious. In other words, unconscious merely means dimly aware.
Dimly aware.
Not absolutely, totally unaware.
No, dimly aware.
And therefore, by being sensitive to the hints and the
hints and
implications
and the dreams, everything. To me, unconscious is not very important.
Well, no, I don't think it's important, except that it may do things that are.
Yes, but
it may make a big effect, though it's really unimportant.
But therefore, my mind or whatever it is, I'm very aware of all this. Aware of the intimations of the unconscious, dimly conscious, the hints, the hidden motives, which if one is alert, one can very easily find out.
And all the various senses of pleasure and pain.
Yes, all that.
And then I think the unconscious has a way of making the mind dull itself to make itself less sensitive to all these things.
Yes, because quite.
To anesthetize itself, I used to
say. Yes, the dim and the unconscious tries to make the conscious not so active.
It tries to anesthetize it, or to tranquilize it.
Tranquilize. I see all that. Therefore, that's what when I say I'm fully aware, I include the unconscious movements, the hidden motives, the desires, will, all that. That is, the thought realizes totally its boundaries, that it cannot go beyond it. You see, That's what the orthodox meditation people do. Try to control thought. The controller, they never realize control is control, but try to control thought so that it has no movement.
Yes, well, I mean, we've discussed that.
But
I mean, that implies some movement in the field of reality to control thought. I mean, is that it? I mean, that's usually, it may involve concentration or contemplation. You see, and
thought, it is still the movement of thought.
Movement of thought. Now, their assumption is that there are certain movements of thought which will bring thought to quietness.
Which is, they say, from what I've understood, and I may be wrong, they say thought must be controlled.
I'm not even sure all of them say exactly that. I think somebody like the Maharishi may say it must be quiet, and there's not even control. But he doesn't call it control even.
But it is the same, quieten the thought.
By concentrating on a word, and then drop the word, and so on.
But it's still the movement of thought.
Yes. But I think his assumption, not that I accept it, but his assumption is that there's a certain movement of thought which will make thought completely silent. And then the mystery might participate.
I suppose you have gone into this a little bit. I have talked to various people about this.
I'm not saying I accept it.
Of course not. There, from what I've heard and what they have told me, not Maharishi and his disciples, others, that sound has a peculiar effect on the brain.
Certain sounds.
And those sounds are given only, mantras, only to people who have lived with the Master for a number of years, who the Master has studied them, seen their character, their tendency, and all the rest of it. Then they give a certain mantra.
Yes. It would be suited to that person.
Nobody else.
Yes. Well, assuming that they do that, now what would you say? That sound is still thought.
Yes.
That's because it's defined in some way.
No, and there's much deeper.
Yeah.
First you repeat it loud.
Yes.
Then you repeat it silently.
Yeah.
Then you listen to the sound only.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they believe that would be beyond thought already.
Yes.
Now you say it's not beyond thought.
No, it's not beyond thought.
Because the sound is produced from memory.
Yes. It's all structured on thought, which is a desire to achieve tranquility.
Yes, so in the whole process, it is never separate from an implicit desire to achieve tranquility. It will be there even if it's dimly aware.
Yes.
And that desire will produce a distortion, a self-deception.
This is a delusion. So, being aware of all that desire for an achievement must inevitably create an delusion. Thought then says, there is no movement.
Yes, well, when you say thought says that already is a movement, though.
No, I mean it's realized. It knows, or it is aware. It is. It is so. That is the truth, right? The moment thought has said, I cannot move, that's the fact.
Well, yes, so that sounds a little troublesome, because you're saying now thought has the truth, do you see?
No. The moment it stops moving, that's what I mean.
And then truth.
Then that is so.
Truth is so, right?
So,
truth is.
Yes. It isn't thought has created truth. thought comes to an end as a movement outside, beyond its limits. I wonder if I'm making...
Yes, well, when thought comes to an end...
Not as a means of achieving something, not by volition, by desire for tranquility and peace and experience, none of that.
Thought is consciously aware of its own limitation.
Yes, that's all I'm saying.
It comes to an end when there's no need for it.
Yeah.
And that is truth. I mean, then, or would you say then truth is?
Yes, then truth is. Now, then meditation is may I put it the other way? Can the mind, can this consciousness, which is filled with the things of thought, all that we have discussed just now, can that empty itself?
Now, what does that mean, empty itself?
I'll tell you what I'm... The things that thought has created.
What things do you mean?
Right. Like achievement, desire, will, attachment.
Yes, the self, the center.
Center.
Time, is that part of it?
That's it. All that. Can there be an emptying of all that?
Now, when you say emptying...
Emptying the sense... I mean emptying, seeing the reality of thought, and thought which is fragmented, thought which is limited, broken up, and whatever it does is still limited, and so on and so on. That's my consciousness. And thought no more active at all there. I don't know how to put this.
Yes.
I'm active in the world of reality.
The thought is, I see, that thought is always active in the field of reality.
Obviously.
But it ceases to try to act to capture the whole, to go beyond the field of reality. See, I think that thought is always trying to go beyond the field of reality.
No, I won't. My thought won't.
No, but I'm saying, let's say the traditional...
Traditional thought, right.
We pick up the tradition from the society that thought...
Yes, tradition from society, education, all the rest of it.
Now, do you say that your thought is entirely without a center? That's...
Yes. Center being, must be very clear again.
Yeah, I want to understand that.
Center being, desire, achievement.
But there's also the sensation of a center.
Sensation as
anywhere.
Being. Yes, sensation as being.
As being centered, say, here in the solar plexus, anywhere.
Solar plexus, they've gone into all this.
Yeah.
Between the eyes, in the solar plexus, in the heart.
Yes.
No center.
Yes. Now the center...
that is definite.
Yes. I mean, I can see that the concept of the center produces a reaction, that produces a feeling. You see, in other words, the feeling of the center is produced by the concept of the center.
Center, quite.
So it has no independent reality.
Yeah, quite.
I mean, it seems that center is one of the basic causes of illusion, because once the center is established, then the next thought attributes itself to the center, and it becomes, therefore it becomes the truth. Do you see?
Yes, yes.
In other words, thought then somehow seems to have gotten itself beyond reality into truth.
So that if I see very clearly the world of reality, which thought has created.
Which includes the center.
Which, of course.
And it includes the concept.
Which is concept, and the concept feeding the center feeding the concept,
Yes.
and so on, all that. All that is the movement of thought.
Yes. You see that, just a matter of I found something clarifying that when I see that there's a concept, I see something which I could call objective reality. If it's correct to say its activity is independent of thought, say the microphone, although it was made by thought, it is objective reality. Then there is another reality which is sustained and created entirely by thought. That is the center.
Center, that's right. The center is created by thought.
And it's sustained by
thought.
It does not have the kind of reality that the microphone has, or even less the mountain.
That's obvious.
Yes, so
that's clear.
And part of the confusion comes in when the inability of thought to make a clear distinction between between the two, that which sustained independently of thought and that which thought sustains, you see.
Yes.
And it occurred to me that, see, something happens, thought thinks something, the root of thought is not perceived, and suddenly the content appears, a certain reality, which is then taken by the next thought as existing independently and either being reality or truth.
Yes,
you see what I mean?
But all
and we lose track of that, you see.
Yes.
Now, I was going to say that if I did not lose track of this process of thought, I would see the whole of thought as one, and there would be no illusion, right?
No, that's right.
Now, so I've been watching for a while, you see, to say that there's always, thought seems to, first of all, have some natural tendency to lose track of this, and later it is built up systematically by the thought which goes beyond reality, and that is the thought of the center.
I think what you said just now, thought has created this.
Yes, but then still it exists independently.
Still exists,
yeah.
Independent of thought.
Yes.
And the center is created by thought.
But it does not exist independent of thought.
Independent of thought.
No, it's the thought.
It is sustained by thought.
Fed and sustained by thought all the time.
All the time. So those are two factors.
That's right. Now I've asked myself how one could confuse one with the other, and the answer is that thought, when it creates the center, it does not watch, it is not aware of itself creating the center, and suddenly the center is there, just like as if it were the microphone.
That's right. And takes that as reality.
It takes that as independent reality.
Independent. That's right.
And now, after that, it begins to attribute pleasure and pain to the center, and in the hope of maintaining pleasure, it does not want to give up the reality of the center, because to give up the reality of the center, you would lose the possibility of pleasure from thought. Because pleasure, that's clear.
So let's get it clear again. I want it clear. Thought has created this.
Yes, and thought, but I was going to just make it complete, that thought not only creates, it measures and it defines and determines. You see, for example, it may determine the mountain, though it hasn't created the mountain.
No.
It determines the shape of the mountain. And the mountain is objective reality, which was there without thought. The next step is that thought has made the microphone, which was there with thought, but it still exists independently.
Quite right.
And then the third step is thought has created the center, which does not exist at all independently of thought. But but thought thinks that it does.
It is independent.
Yes.
Yes. And sustains that independence through pleasure and so on.
Through pleasure, and then that becomes a trap, because the same mechanism that allows thought to attribute... See, if pleasure produced only by thought would be too trivial to be sought. Now, but if it is attributed to the center, then it is felt to be something genuine and real.
Yes.
And as if it were, some objective reality or some reality independent of thought.
It's very clear.
But then once thought has attributed pleasure to the center, it cannot avoid attributing pain to the center. Therefore, that creates suffering. You see, that's the art.
That's simple enough. So we've got the picture clear.
Yeah.
Now, one is totally aware of this. And therefore, no movement as time and measure outside this. Because thought, as we said, cannot possibly apprehend or comprehend or aware of the whole.
No.
And it is not a verbal acceptance, but an actuality. Thought sees as objectively as that.
Yes, I mean, I understand. You see, I think there's always a slight residue, almost a physical movement, which seems thought still.
I don't quite.
Well, you see, I can't explain, but that as if there were still waves.
No, that's what I want to. When there is the realization or comprehension or awareness, thought is a movement in time and measure. Thought creates the center and sustains the center. Thought created this and is an objective, independent of thought.
Yes, and thought recognizes that and existing independently of the mountain.
I am aware of all that. And so thought has no movement beyond it, beyond.
Yeah, so I understand, you see, what you're asking.
In which is included conscious,
yes,
semi-conscious, dim everything. Because, we were talking a little bit yesterday. Thought is movement in time. Action is without time.
Yeah, so that may be the point that remains to be looked at. You see,
I don't want to bring it in yet just now. We can bring it in, but if one is only living in acting and not in the movement of time.
Well, and yet the movement of time is going on. I mean, you see, this is a point which, and perhaps we could discuss.
Of course.
Let's try to make it very clear, because I think many years ago in Tanag we reached some such point in a discussion, and
yes.
One of the things that puzzled me at the time was, we were discussing the center and being free of the center, and then came the question of the timeless. You see, now the thing that puzzled me at the time was that I say I'm talking to you in time, you say you're not in time. But you see, probably then, there was a feeling at that time, you see, that everything exists in time. You see, this is something which is in the tradition, is very deeply ingrained.
Yes, everything is in time.
Yes, you see, I think that I was trying to say that suppose one can reach the stage of seeing that the center is nothing except a creation of thought, you see, and that's almost gone, let's say.
Yes, sir.
But then there's a kind of a movement which I feel you can't characterize, but it almost seems to be a universal movement, a feeling all over of something moving, in which you exist, you see.
Something moving in which you exist.
Well, movement in which you exist. Let's try to put it.
The movement in which you exist.
Yes. Now that's probably communicated to us by a very subtle tradition. It's handed down.
Now, wait a minute. I have no tradition.
Yes.
I will go into it. Suppose I have no tradition.
Yes. But suppose you have.
Wait a minute, I want to approach the other. I'll come to it later. I have no tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not slave to society, psychologically. I have no burden of the 1,000 yesterdays. So, there is no conscious or unconscious movement.
Yeah, but I think tradition is the source of this whole movement.
That's it.
And the tradition, I was saying, how it's handed down is, I looked it up in the dictionary anyway, it's not only handed down verbally, but also by example.
By example.
That's much more difficult.
Of course.
And the point is that when the child sees the parents and their friends and behaving in a certain way, and which implies a certain way of thinking, and the child begins to think that way.
Quite.
And it seems that he's picking up reality. You see, he's picking that up as if it were independent reality, independent of thought, because it's not his thought, it's somebody else's thought, but he doesn't see that all thought is one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whose thought it is.
Whose thought it is.
But see, when you learn from tradition, somebody is guided by thought, but he is implying that it is not thought, but it's the way things always were, that they are necessary objectively so, you see.
And also in the dictionary, I don't know if you saw, tradition means also betrayal.
Yes, it's the same root, to hand over, yes. Yeah. And see, I was thinking that we need two words. You see, in other words, there is something you were saying the other day that you had discovered something like Columbus or something, and that other people might learn and not start from the same place.
Right.
So in some sense, you are also passing something over, but not the same way.
Not the same, no.
But also, say, science, it's the same. You shouldn't have science handed down traditionally, but rather the discovery, from somebody else's discovery, you learn.
And move on.
You move on. Although, unfortunately, it has become a tradition.
Quite.
Now, so we could say...
You see, sir, wait a minute. Here, there's no moving on.
Yes, well, that's what I'm... But there was implied in what you said before the other day. You see, let's try to get it clear then. See, so you said before you were like Columbus. You had made a discovery many years ago.
Yes,
you discovered truth is a pathless land. You went through, say, all sorts of painful experiences, which you say are not necessary for other people to repeat. All right, now let's say somebody else can learn from your discovery, and he now then the question is, what happens? So you say there's no moving on.
No, that is, there is no movement beyond that.
Yes, all right. Let's try to make it clear that in science, at least as it has been practiced so far, there is a discovery, and if it's done right, then it's not a tradition. Somebody learns, and he may discover something else.
Yes.
And that makes a series of discoveries which make a kind of progress.
Progress and knowledge accumulate and all the rest of it.
Yes. Now, let's try to make it clear how you propose to do it differently.
Yes. Here,
yes.
When you say truth is a pathless land, it is final. It is so.
Yes, all right. But then you still said, you see, it's not quite clear, because you still said when somebody may learn from you what you're discovering, and then he may go on and make his own discovery.
That is, someone says truth is a pathless land. It is so. There is nothing more to be said.
Yes, that's right, but...
There is no movement of somebody else coming along saying, yes.
All right, now we have to make it very clear, not to say, no, let's say in science somebody makes a discovery. Let's say Einstein made a discovery. Now, somebody else may learn from Einstein. It does not mean that he will repeat what Einstein did or modify it, but rather, having learned from Einstein, he may now discover something deeper.
Deeper, quite.
Of his own. Now, is there anything similarity?
No.
No similarity,
no
so we must get it clear. Right.
No.
Right. All right, so that's a difference between, that seems to be an intrinsic difference between science and what you're talking about, because I cannot imagine science,
I'm glad you brought this out.
Because I cannot imagine science except by one discovery leading to another, you see, otherwise there would be no point to it.
Quite.
All right, so now we say, it's not a case of one discovery leading to another. Say, I learned that truth is a pathless land because of what you said and communicated. It's so, right? And that acts, right?
That's right.
But now you say there's a mystery, you see, but we're not going to discover deeper into the mystery.
You see, now, when thought has no movement beyond its limitation, beyond its reality, right, sir?
Yes, well, we still, I thought that requires a little more. There's no movement, you see, is something which, that's part of the thing, but let's say coming back to the tradition, you say you have no tradition. Let's say I have a tradition.
I have tradition, you have no tradition. Let's move.
Well, either way.
Doesn't matter.
All right, now, let's say, you see, over many, many years with my parents and friends and so on, it was communicated non-verbally, and by example. That I live in time. Time is of the essence. You see, everything. Time is the most important, and your life depends on time, and time is flying, and so on and so on. You see, saying
time
don't waste
money.
time. Time is money, and you only have a limited time to live. And you better make use of it, and so on. Now. So everybody has communicated in millions of ways how important time is, you see,
yes.
from very early. And that communication was picked up as if it were objective reality, you see, not as if somebody told me as an idea. And therefore I experience it as objective reality.
Quite
right? And it's the same as the center. The center is experienced as objective as reality, independent reality.
Yes.
And so is time. Because of that tradition.
Yes.
And now, that experience, although the center may not be very, permanent or strong, there's a sense of some movement going on all over, especially in the body, let's say. In other words, there's a stream of movement in which I exist.
Proceeds, I understand.
Right. Now, it seems to me that being free of that is much deeper than, say, being free of the center. I don't know or is there no difference?
I see what you mean. I see what you're getting at.
Because, see, essentially this was the point, I think, many years ago in Gestalt. We had a discussion here, and I think we reached about there.
I've forgotten to mention. So, forgive me if I talk about myself, it's not. I've never thought about time. Time has not entered into my being. I know there is time. I know I have to stop at 4 or 5.
Or the same as the microphone, there's objective time.
I know if I order something, I'll get it to 5 days, 10 days, so on. So the psychological factor of time has never played any part.
Yeah.
That is, there was never a question of becoming something.
Well, it's not merely a question of becoming. I'm trying to say there seems, it probably is very similar, but let's say time comes in various ways, like saying now is another moment from before. There's a feeling, and I feel that through time one loses track of the oneness of thought. You see, if we could say all thought is one, then it's all limited. You see, so I understand all thought is one, it's all limited, but the actuality of that gets lost. You see, because and I see why. At least one reason. Through time, you see. Now, why does it get lost through time? Because, let's say, in one moment I'm aware of thought taking place. The next moment comes along, and suddenly we say it's another moment, and let's see how to put it, and that it's different. And therefore, what appears, the connection between what is here and what was done a moment ago, which created what is here now, is lost. Do you see?
Yes.
Have I made it clear?
Not quite.
No, let me try to make it clear. Now, I think time introduces, fragmentation, because time is one moment, another. Now, let's say what is happening in thought now is one process. What happened before is continuous. It made what exists now, right, in the whole of thought.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a sense of a center now, but it was due to a concept I had a moment ago.
Yes.
It takes a moment from the concept to produce, like a wave, the whole thing.
Yes. And also the ending of it.
The ending of it. But I'm trying to go a little further with what goes on now. Now then, insofar as there's a sudden feeling this moment is different from the other, the connection between the center which exists now and the concept which made it is lost, do you see? Lost to awareness, anyway.
I haven't got your meaning yet.
Oh. Well, it's almost like saying, let's say I understand certain things about thought, and there's a sudden feeling this is a different moment, and this is different, when it's not really different. Do you see that? For example, if something suddenly surges up very fast and very intense, there is an implicit thought, anything beyond a certain speed and intensity is reality.
I understand, I see.
And not thought. You see, suppose I say, I understand what thought is. Thought takes time. Thought has a certain limited intensity, and so on. Now then, very early, probably the brain made a distinction saying thought is not as solid or real as the table. And also, it works in time. Now, suppose thought reacts very fast and very intensely.
Yes.
And then that thought, then the next thought takes that as an independent reality.
I see, I understand.
And therefore you have lost track
Track.
of the connection, which means, and that comes about because we have said this is now another moment, something new has come in there.
Yes.
When in fact it isn't.
No, I've got it. So what are you saying?
So I'm only trying to say that this question of time is more than just becoming, more than just the sense I want to become, although it includes the sense I want to become better and so on. But it has in it some tendency for me to lose track.
I see, of course.
To lose track of the connection. You see, if I could see all thought as one connected, then I think the thing, in other words, say I've understood what you said, that all thought is limited, right? Let me try to put it more clearly.
Yeah, I got it.
I've understood that. But now, at one moment, my brain does not understand, loses track and says, okay, all thought is limited, but this isn't thought.
Yes, quite.
Therefore, this is allowed to go on in some unlimited way.
No, but I see, I perceive, or I'm aware, all thought is one. Therefore, it's not my thought, your thought.
Yes, but there are all sorts of means by which thought tries to present itself as not thought.
I know. That's delusion and all the rest of it.
And I think time is involved,
yes,
very much in
very
that.
Very much, quite. So wouldn't you say, if you perceived, not verbally and all the rest, really had an insight into thought, everything else is explained in relation to thought. That is, desire, will, unconnected moments of thought.
Yes, suffering and pleasure and fear.
Yeah, intervals of thought.
Mm-hmm.
All that.
Yes, we have to see the whole thing. Now the point is that the whole sense of time, which includes not only becoming, but also the sense of separation of moments, that is, one moment is different.
Yes, separation of moment. Separation of thought.
One moment, see, if I call this moment now, see, there's when you say now, thought is involved in there, because now is not the moment before, do you see? So, and therefore thought introduces a separation which is false.
Quite.
Because the moment before has flowed continuously into this moment.
So, the word separates.
Yes.
The
sensation separates.
There are intervals between thoughts which separates.
Yes. And also changes in thought which separate.
Changes in thought.
Yes.
All that is a movement of thought.
Yes. I think the point I was trying to make was that the movement of thought is very deceptive and has many aspects which
of course.
one has to be aware of. And now, this is one of the things that arises, say, that when you actually come to do something, or when you're in relation with somebody, the whole thought may rise to such an intensity that it will mistake itself for a reality independent of thought, do you see?
Yes, quite.
And therefore, and that loses track at that moment. See, in other words, let's say everything you said was understood, but more or less, but at a certain stage, thought loses track of what is the difference between, what thought is.
Quite, I understand this.
And one has to somehow, maintain, to keep awareness of the connection. That's
yes. I'm not sure, sir.
Or it may not be right, but
I want to question it. I'm not sure that all these things arise when you have really experienced, seen, perceived, or an insight into thought as movement in time.
Yes, well, I'm sure that's so. I'm trying to say that this...
Whole of that, all that's implied.
And
Do we see the whole of thought as a movement, have an insight, and then describe the details? Or the details, and I don't know if I'm... With me, I'm maybe odd or peculiar, I see. And then I explain. But not the explanation and the see. So are we saying there is always time? Just a minute. There is no ending to time. It is a constant, steady movement.
That's the way it appears.
In which we live.
Yes.
Which expresses itself as yesterday, today, and tomorrow, which expresses itself as the center and acting from the center, and the intervals between thoughts, and the thought changing from yesterday's thought.
Yes, the abrupt or the gradual change.
It gradually changes.
Yeah.
All that is a movement of time.
Yes.
Attachment, detachment, all that is a movement of time. Now, can thought see that and stop? Time, in the sense of movement, as thought, stop. Time must have a stop. You see, if there is no ending to thought, there is no radical revolution. Right?
Yes.
Then we're just going on, changing patterns, all the rest of it. That is, you see the truth, time has a stop. Like truth is a pathless land. You see the truth that time has a stop. And you're trying to convey to me verbally the movement of thought, center, all that. And I listen to all your explanation, and yet my mind is groping after the stopping of that time. Because it is the fact that time has a stop is an extraordinary thing. And I'm gasping after it. So unconsciously I want it. I realize, I am becoming totally aware of the whole content of my consciousness.
Yes, well, let's try to put it like this, that see, that one can see the necessity of that time must have a stop. You see, that now, once again, if we come back to the unconscious, to the habitual layers, you see that I think they still move in time.
Tremendous plot.
Yeah, they move in time. And I don't know, you're implying, you see, and our whole tradition is that our instincts and so on are in that direction.
I know.
But you're implying they are not.
For me, they've never acted a major factor.
Yes.
I'm not saying this with any...
Yes. Now, you also said that the explanations we gave before were inadequate. You see, the one about... so maybe we... That would... what else would you add?
We said the center.
No, you said, having been ill and, having...
you're going back to the book.
Yes, I'm just saying, you said that those explanations for why time...
That's what, yes. All those explanations don't actually reveal something that was strange, let's put it for a moment. Strange in the sense, mysterious.
Yeah, you mean from the beginning?
From the beginning. There are thousands of boys who are ill, vague, and then get conditioned and drop off. Millions of them are like that. This boy, why it didn't happen to him? You follow, sir?
Yes.
I've given you half a dozen explanations. But I say those explanations, they satisfy at a certain level. But it is not complete explanation. There's something totally mysterious and something sacred in this, if I can use that word without too much sentimentality or religiosity. That was taking place in him.
Even before he was discovered by the Theosophist.
I should think so. It was the seed of it was operating already.
Yes.
Because when I saw that picture of the two brothers, the taller one holding the hand of the younger one, I felt that there was something uncontaminated. I'm using quick words. Something which was that extraordinary thing was happening to him already. Now, I don't want to create a mystery about all this, I have horror about it. But the explanations and what took place, I don't think they give the clue to it.
Well, would you say they may discuss conditions that are favorable to this sort of thing, but they don't determine
They were not favorable.
They were not favorable. But I mean, not being conditioned. There was some, let's say, being ill and unable to be affected deeply by tradition may have been somewhat favorable.
Favorable.
Because you could say a bit later the mind is not so impressionable, and therefore...
Yes,
right?
Yes, we said that.
Yes, but that's not enough to
That's
explain.
not
But it would give some...
there are millions of boys like that.
It really is a tendency. On the other hand, some other tendency might be equally favorable.
Yes.
So you can't just say this is particularly good
No.
compared with that.
No. But I feel, look, let's be much more simple.
Hmm.
Millions of boys go through this illness, malaria, recover, get conditioned, and go off. Go off in the sense they become ordinary, become normal, or whatever you like to call it. Here was a boy who had that illness, who had malaria, who was quinine doped and all the rest of it. So mentally he was retarded. Therefore, he was unconditioned.
Yes, until he was at a less impressionable age. Eh?
Yes. Even then he was not very much
Yes, but I mean, beyond a certain age, the conditioning doesn't hold. You see, I think, for example, children who don't learn language by the age of 7 might find it very hard to learn because the conditioning, so they're very easily conditioned up to a certain age.
Certainly, quite right.
And beyond that age, they're not so easily conditioned. So therefore, see, if a boy could escape conditioning for a certain number of years, then...
Till 14, 15.
Yeah, then beyond that point, his brain is already resistant to conditioning. You know, it doesn't take it.
No, doesn't take. Yes.
Doesn't take.
Not resist.
It doesn't resist, but it doesn't take the conditioning.
Yeah.
Whereas at a very early age, it's impressionable. Impressions are made easily, and they
Yes,
hold. Right?
let's take that.
Yes, whereas being ill, the impressions were not made.
Yes, let's take that.
That's one explanation, but then, as you say, that's only that might be slightly favorable, somewhat favorable, but
that isn't
there's
the
more.
whole answer.
No. And now let's. Can you say any more?
See, can we talk simply,
Yeah.
frankly?
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. We better record it, unless you don't want to.
He felt that he was protected.
No, I see. By what?
Just a minute. He felt always protected.
Well, I think many children may feel.
No,
so.
much later I'm talking.
Oh, how old?
Oh, from the age till what? 20, 30.
Yes, but did that feeling continue? Or?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, what sort of protection?
It's difficult to describe it. You know, you're protected in the sense you protect the tree to grow, for it to go straight.
Mm-hmm.
Against the wind.
All right. But why just this one?
Well, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
I would know, but I don't want to inquire into it.
Well, you think it's better not to.
Yes. I've gone into this very much with people like Lady Emily, who's known me, others in India, and with Mrs. Zimbalist and others who I've known for a number of years. When they come to a certain point, I don't want to inquire. I feel I can't inquire. Let me put it that way. I feel like it's something... It sounds too damn silly.
What?
It sounds too damn silly to say there's something the mind, thought, cannot penetrate. But there is this thing.
Well, would you
There.
Would you say then that somehow in this mystery there's an order which involves all that?
Yes.
Which would imply a destiny that was common to mankind or something?
Yes.
In other words, that well, you feel that's the case, but you don't feel it's wise to inquire.
No.
But of course, I mean, I'm not questioning it, but saying many people have that feeling and they can be wrong, you know, in other words.
I've gone into the big camp.
Yes.
Many people have it, of course, good Lord. You see, sister, take that boy. Ill, discovered, trained in the sense to be clean, to in India in those days, not having a mother, the boys were trained to get up early, wash properly, all that. Not psychologically trained. Because they said, he is the vehicle of the Lord, therefore we can't interfere, psychologically. You follow, sir? Now, he never went through all the things he talks about.
What do you mean?
I'll tell you. I know, I'm going to. Jealousy.
Oh.
Never attached to property, money. You follow? All that. Never thought of a position, status, a hierarchical outlook, except when I get into Mrs. Simmons' car, and then I can, what is it? Land Rover, I can look down.
Oh, you can.
That's all. Otherwise, I have no feeling of looking up or looking down. Now, how does this all happen? All without cultivating it or wanting it.
Yes, well, but I mean, this idea has been common in mankind that there is such a destiny. You see, in fact, the Theosophists believed it themselves. I mean,
what the Theosophists believed was too fantastic.
Yes, but
maybe call it nut house, but I mean that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'm saying Theosophists have got quite a different. No,
I have a different idea of destiny, but you're trying to say that there's that this whole thing didn't happen by accident.
That's it.
That there's a hidden order,
Yes.
a mysterious order.
They would say. They would say there is the whole hierarchical principle in life.
Yes.
And the highest principle, the Maitreya, etc.
That's he rules the lower ones. Yes. I mean, let's say you discard the idea that some principle is ruling.
Yes.
In that hierarchical sense.
Yes.
But let's say, having discarded that, you're nevertheless proposing that there is still an order, that things don't happen by accident to this boy. I mean, they didn't, right?
I'm trying to imply that.
Yes.
To be truthful. Truthful.
Yes.
Not, yes.
And this order is in some sense a mystery.
Yes. I think not a mystery in the sense of great mystery.
Not secret or anything.
Not secret.
But something which you cannot penetrate. I mean, you couldn't find the ultimate explanation of it. Or it's not worth trying. I mean.
Yes.
But I mean, if you could, well, it would only lead to another mystery, I suppose. If you.
I don't. It's like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it a little bit more simply. Neither I want to, or
can you?
Can.
But you see, that raises a question, because if you don't want to, that would already be enough to be sure you couldn't, you see. I mean,
yes, of course.
So it doesn't prove it can't be done, it merely proves that you can't do it.
It proves I can't do it and I don't want to.
Because you don't, but it's maybe the other way around, you see, that you can't. Is it because you can't because you don't want to, or is it you don't want to because you can't? I see.
No, on the contrary.
Or,
I think I can, but I don't want to.
I see, that's it. Yes, well, and you feel, there's a feeling you can't explain that.
No, I think it is something, that's it. It's something mysterious, in the sense we are talking, which you cannot, which you cannot penetrate by thought.
Yes, well then that means you also can't. I mean, you cannot penetrate it by thought, but does that mean it could be penetrated in some other way?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But I don't think so.
Probably not.
You know, after all, the Church, Catholic Church said there is a mystery. Thought cannot, you cannot understand it.
Yes.
And the various religions have put it in different ways. But here we've come to a point. Here is a man who says all that. And it's like picking a flower, looking at a flower and tearing it to pieces. And there's no flower at the end of it.
I see. So you're saying that the thing is not capable of analysis. So what we're talking about is not capable of analysis. It is a whole which is not analyzable. But, and are you implying that thought must analyze then?
What?
You're implying then thought can only analyze.
The thought can only analyze, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so that if you don't analyze it, then all that can be possible is to participate in it.
And also, there's a tremendous danger of deceiving oneself.
Yes. Yes, because so many people have had similar ideas.
I've been through all that.
Yes.
I mean, I have no desire to be any, follow?
Yeah.
That doesn't enter into my being at all.
Yes, I mean, you could argue that the fact that so many people have thought this way doesn't necessarily prove it's wrong. It may only say that people get a glimpse of it and then they go astray because of desire to get hold of it and so on.
No, but if they go astray, I question whether they see it.
I didn't say they see it. They got a glimpse. There is some...
I don't think they can get a glimpse.
Well, then what happens? But people get an
because
impression.
they think they have a glimpse.
They think they have a glimpse of it. Well, let's put it this way. The thought is not satisfied with the known and therefore projects the mysterious.
That's it.
And at the same time, some people who perhaps have seen this may also have said it, and that becomes part of the tradition and suggests it and so on.
You see, sir, that's why, in a way, I'm glad Mary has written that book. Because while one is living, one can correct it a little bit, answer these questions, that he wasn't a neurotic, that he wasn't epileptic, he wasn't
or disturbed,
mentally disturbed, drugged, all that kind of thing. But fact remains that there is something which cannot be explained.
Yes, well, let's try to put it that if explanation will involve some kind of analysis, or at least, and you're saying this will escape analysis or even would be destroyed by analysis.
It cannot be destroyed.
It cannot be destroyed.
Analysis can't touch it.
It can't touch it. It cannot be touched by analysis. So the flower analogy is not quite right, because the flower is destroyed. But but all that is possible is to participate.
That's all. That's all. I was going to say, if you have this thing, this mystery, this thing, I will participate when I listen to you completely. You follow? When you say, for instance, you say, truth is a pathless land. It is so for me. Therefore, no guru, no. You follow? The whole thing goes. The moment I hear it, it's finished. What time is it?
It's now 5 o'clock, I think, 5:05.
Ma. Does this table come from outside?
Yes.
Ah, it was here, yes, that's right. I never discussed this thing.
What?
I never gone into this as deeply as we have done. Oh Lord, it's raining.
Raining a bit.
Or have I? May have, I don't know.
Perhaps.
I never told you that incident. I know probably I've told you, Signora and Mrs. Imblis. I was staying in Bombay, and I don't speak any Indian language. There was a knock on the door, and Mrs. Jayakar, her servant, opened the door, and there were 3 sannyasis, monks. And she asked them in and told Mr. Jayakar. Mr. Jayakar came forward and brought them into the room. And I was in my room. And she brought me and said, there are 3 sannyasis here. They want to meet you. One was a very old man. He had lived by himself for 11 years in the Himalayas. And he was making a pilgrimage going south to the various temples. And he was so old, so I felt, and I held his hand. He began to cry. Because nobody held his hand. And we sat around. And he said in Hindi to her, we were passing by, and we felt that there was a great man here, and we wanted to meet him. Whether he had been told, or whether it was a fact, I don't know. I'm skeptical about all that kind of thing. So he explained, he all talked about various people in the room, telling them truths about themselves. Then he said, "May I wash my hands, please?" So they brought him a basin and jug of cold water in the ice box and washed his hands. And towel and wiped it. Then after cleaning his hands, from the same jug, he poured it into his hand and passed it around. That is the Indian tradition, that when a sannyasi offers his blessing, he does it that way. That you take the water, sip it, touch it with your tongue, and swallow it. It went around the first time. And he said, "Again, may I wash my hands?" Again, he passed it around. And when it came to me, I was sitting next to him, because I was the last. And I tasted it, and its first water was plain water. Second time, it tasted very sweet. I said, "Good Lord, is he playing a trick on us?" I didn't say anything. And he left presently. Oh yes, he said to Sunanda, "You have no children, you're married, you have no children. Do you want children? If so, if you do, take this out of you something, you'll have children." She says, "For God's sake, rather not." And to Balasundaram. After he left, I asked several of them, "Did you taste that water?" Because it tastes like coconut water or some sweet water. And they all said yes. First, and this poor old man, he couldn't put saccharine in there or some kind of sugar twisted in, or something that would make the water sweet. You understand, sir? How did it happen? Probably he was unaware of it himself. Now, there are strange things in the world, sir.
Yeah.
As a boy, I saw, not a boy, when I used to live in the Theosophical Society, because I was one of the heads of the affair. A man comes, there were several of us sitting in the room, a man comes, a sannyasi, a man, a so-called religious man comes, a monk, and talks to us and all kinds of things. And we're all sitting like this, and he suddenly levitates, floats across, and sits over there. He had no springs, no rope pulling him.
Yes, Yes, well, I mean, a lot of people are talking of strange things nowadays, and I think one could say that our understanding of nature is very limited anyway. But I think there's a distinction of two kinds of strange things. You see, that sort of thing might be mysterious in one sense, but it might still be.
I don't think it's mysterious.
No, something unknown to us now.
Yeah.
But it might be understandable later.
No, they explain it.
They explain it by
special kind of life, discipline, breeding.
But I meant that it violates what we know about the laws of nature.
Nature, yes, gravity.
Which may mean that the laws of nature could be different.
Yes.
See, that still need not be mysterious.
No, that's what I mean. That's not mysterious.
Although it's strange.
Yeah. That's why I want to differentiate the mystery
from the strange. Yes.
Strange. And also I've seen in front of, there were several of us, a man sitting on there and a rose bed in the middle. He asked for a newspaper. He said, put it down at your feet. We were sitting on steps, and you were sitting right across. And he said, watch it. He said, I'm not going to mesmerize you because you're a religious man, but watch it. And you saw the paper, smaller and smaller, and disappear. I don't see the point of it, but I mean...
No, but I mean that's something strange, but which might be explained.
Oh, they explained it very simply.
No, but I meant that there are different kinds of explanations. But
yes. I'm only saying this to show that strangeness is not the other.
Yes. But you're saying that what happened to this boy was not of that nature.
Yes, that's all.
Of that strange nature, but...
I don't know what happened, but that's not that nature.
But is it your feeling that whatever happened, that was behind it some sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, destiny or order which was aimed at some transformation of man?
Probably. Better stop.
Right.
Huh?
Okay.
Go for a walk.